Hello, everybody. My name is Ellen Hemphill. I'm an HR manager, and today I want to talk to you guys about eliminating sexual harassment in the workplace. What is sexual harassment, you may ask? Well, it can be many different things. It can be whenever someone is talking sexual to you in the workplace and you don't feel comfortable and you would like it to stop, but they keep going and pressuring you. It happens a lot and very often to the point where people think they need to quit. And how does sexual harassment affect the workplace? Well, it can affect many different ways. It can make employees feel uncomfortable to the point where they need to quit. It can make the environment very awkward and uncomfortable. And it can put HR in a predicament where they have to find someone else to work because the person either is just too much or the other person who's on the victim side quits on them. Well, how can you eliminate sexual harassment? Well, some ways are you can make sure you implement more procedures where people feel comfortable, and you can make employees watch videos so that they can know exactly what sexual harassment is, how to prevent it, how to stop it, how to make sure um, what is the fine line and what are the boundaries for people. It is nice for employees to ask other employees what they feel comfortable with, because sometimes just speaking and venting can be one thing, and another thing could be they take it the wrong way. So you want to make sure that everyone is comfortable in their own environment, and whenever they're working, they focus on the work and not on social activity. There was a situation that happened at Kohl's. There was a girl who was working and she asked another guy to watch the register. She got his phone number to be able to cover shifts. That's all she wanted to do, was have him cover her shifts and him cover hers. But unfortunately, this man took it way too far. He wanted to be able to have after hour conversations and wanted to fornicate with her. And she was not about it at first because she has a boyfriend, and he was persistent, did not care that she had a boyfriend, and so she went to her manager. At first, the managers were really okay with it, but then eventually they weren't, and they were tired of making accommodations for her specifically when it wasn't happening to anyone else at the time. Well, after she quit, it started happening to other people, and then they finally had the courage to fire him. Unfortunately, that happens, and it's sad that the girl had to quit. Well, what could they have done better in that situation? Well, you know, whenever she showed proof, they should have right there fired him or reprimanded him to the point where he cannot be around her, because after that, he sent threats, and that was not okay. They could have scheduled her better. They should have listened to her and made her feel more comfortable and not ever, in any circumstance, say that she's overreacting. Because when someone comes to you, confides in you, that takes a lot of courage. And in the workplace, it's very it's easy to be able to feel uncomfortable because you are at a professional level, and if you say anything, you don't want to jeopardize either getting fired because they favor other people, and that really happens. Managers do favor other people when they work hard. So what happens when you eliminate sexual harassment? Employees do feel safer. They decide that they are important, their self-worth matters, and they won't take any drama or um, any uncomfortable feeling to the max. They won't make it more important than their work. They feel that it creates a safer environment for everybody, and it creates a better protocol for a next future situation. And HR has more time to focus on the bigger and brighter things in the workplace. Like, for instance, if they want to make sure a manager is doing his job or her job, to make sure that the revenue is coming in and products are going out, like everything is being sold, they got to focus on that. There's so many other things that they need to worry about. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Hello everyone, my name is Ellen Hemphill. I'm an HR manager. I'm going to talk about how to eliminate sexual harassment in the workplace. What is sexual harassment, you may ask? Well, it can be a lot of things. For starters, it can be when someone is sexually talking to you in unusual behavior. It could be if someone makes funny jokes that come off as sexual. And it could be whenever someone says no and they keep consistently going. Sexual harassment is super common around anywhere, and especially workplaces, because a lot of people are not professional. How does sexual harassment affect the workplace? Well, for one, it makes people feel rather embarrassed and uncomfortable to the point where they could either quit or they can feel so uncomfortable that they just consistently let it happen when they don't deserve that. What are some ways we can eliminate sexual harassment? I believe that HR can implement protocols and follow those protocols so that in a case where it is a he said, she said moment, we can pick all the facts out and we can create a whole investigation to where the victims have an opportunity to stay where they are. It is very unlikely that the harasser will be able to still work somewhere and not do it again and again and again. I believe that it is all about advocating for each and every employee. Although it might be unfair, it needs to be implemented so that we can stop sexual harassment altogether. So there's a story about someone who was working at Kohl's. She started her shift and she didn't know who this person at the register was, so she introduced herself and he introduced himself. And eventually, after a while, she got his number, told him specifically she only wanted to talk to him to cover each other's shifts. And he was completely okay with that in the beginning. But whenever she asked him to watch over the registers while she uses the bathroom really, really quick, he all of a sudden texted her inappropriate texts asking her to fornicate with him. And she was not okay with that because she has a boyfriend and she didn't know who he was. It was very sudden and very blunt. So she tells the manager because he was persistent and it didn't stop. And the managers at first were okay with accommodating her, and then all of a sudden she told them how he was harassing her again when they scheduled her on the same day. And he wasn't just harassing her, he was making death threats. So they were able to walk her to her car, but they weren't supposed to schedule him. Continuing on, he then starts sending her death threats and then messaging her some weird things on Facebook. She goes to the police after work one day, and the police didn't do absolutely anything. And then she gets so scared, she talks to the general manager about it, and the manager just says she's overreacting. So Amy ends up quitting, and she feels alone, hurt, uncomfortable, feeling worthless. And even though he didn't physically touch her, she was afraid that he could at some point when they were alone at work. And then she finds out from another coworker that he touched someone, and he was fired after that. In all theory, Amy could have felt like she would have been that girl if she would have stayed. And that is a sad reality. I'm glad that Amy put herself first in that situation, but she shouldn't have had to even deal with any of that. And I think that that's why we need to implement a more safer way of dealing with sexual harassment, or else it won't stop, or else it'll get worse. What is some ways that management could have handled this situation better? Well, whenever Amy showed proof, she should have been listened to. She should have had a voice, and they should have fired him. And then they could have scheduled them better. They could have taken into consideration her feelings. They could have made sure that he was working where she wasn't working and they couldn't have seen each other. Because that is what a manager's job is. They want to make sure that safety is the #1 priority for every and all employees. Then they also should have listened to what she had to say and not brushed it off. Especially since he was a new employee and she worked so hard with her credit sales. Her credit sales was top notch. I don't know why they would have. It blows my mind. Also, they should never, and I mean never, tell an employee for that fact, that they're blowing it out of proportion, that they're overreacting, and that is what made her feel worthless. I could never do that to an employee of mine. I could never make them feel so small that they think that they're the problem. And that is exactly what sexual harassment does to victims. It makes them feel minuscule and not worth anybody's time because they feel like they are the problem. And in reality, the person who is harassing them is the problem. What happens when you eliminate sexual harassment? Employees start to feel safe. Managers have an easier time focusing on professionalism, and it helps decrease fear and anxiety of being in the workplace. It also creates a better protocol for a different kind of situation that may occur. And it would give HR some time to focus on other issues. This is one of the most impactful topic I have ever talked about. This is the whole reason why I want to be a human resource manager. It gives me the ability to stand up for myself when I couldn't stand up for myself before. And yes, I was sexually harassed. I will admit that I had a moment of weakness and I decided to quit my job, just like Amy did. I also want to advocate for employees because they deserve everything. As much as the company deserves the revenue. Employees are the face of the company, and without them, the store would be empty, and customers would not feel valued or appreciated. They would just feel like, oh, I just buy this, go to a kiosk, and leave. They don't get that communication to where they want to shop and feel comfortable with buying the product and being willed and dealed with the products. That is what it's all about, is the employees. So they deserve to be valued, appreciated, listened to, and I want to implement that when I become HR manager. Thank you so much for watching my presentation.